I'm Daniel Goddard, and this is my present research presentation on the Viking expeditions for oceanography geology. And I think that the Viking expeditions are a pretty important time to look at for understanding the current context of navigational history, as well as an understanding of European history and how that influences the modern day. And for navigational history and technology advancement, a lot of pretty important navigational tools were invented by the Vikings, and they became some of the first. They were the first real explorers to set out on boats using more sophisticated equipment than just a boat. And some of the big ones were they would use a sundial pointing northward, or to determine where north was during the day. And since the North Sea and English and around that area is notoriously very poor weather and very cloudy, they developed a item known as a sunstone, which is written down in historical documents, which isn't totally known what it is, but it's believed to be a critterite or calcite mineral, which is polarized, which they would hold up through, and it would be able to project the light coming through the clouds, so that they continue to use their sundial in foggy weather. And this would fuel the age of Vikings as we know it today, which has profound effects on European history, including the major conquests of England, and that would, of course, later influence the English colonization and explorational technological advancements they would have in the Enlightenment era. As for the Viking expansion itself, it turned out to be a really good time to go out for an expansion as the medieval, at least in the northern Atlantic area, because it was during the medieval warming period, which was melting a lot of ice off of the Greenland glaciers. And this would make it much easier to grow and move around in the Greenland, Iceland region, as well as better weather for eventually getting to what they would call Vinland, which was Newfoundland today, as the Vikings were actually the first group of people to make it to North America in their expeditions. And a lot of the tools utilized to fuel this age of Vikings. I mean, it was an entire 500-year period from the from the 9th century to the 11th century, 200 years or so, was fueled by the technology of navigational equipment as well as other various equipment they used. But navigational equipment was very profound and gave the Vikings a lot of power in England, or in Europe as well as England, as they would later take it over to an extent. However, the downfall of the Vikings primarily would be before the end of the medieval warming period, but after the medieval warming period, they would still have colonies in Greenland and Iceland. But once the little ice age occurs after the medieval warming period, all that's gone, and everybody over there would either die or have to leave, and their influence would decline with the changing temperatures. However, the technology they utilized would not go unnoticed and would be later improved, and advancements would come along onto navigational equipment in the areas that they took over, specifically England, and that would lead to the whole start of this class that we had with our first original homework. That'll be all.